From Achieve Studios, this is a Basic Podcast.
Wherever we go, whatever we do, we're gonna go through it together. We may not go far, but sure as a star, wherever we are, it's together. Wherever I go, I know he goes. Wherever I go, I know she goes. No fits, no fights, no feuds, and no egos. Amigos together. Whatever the trick, we can do it. With teamwork, we're bound to get through it. There really isn't anything to it. You do it together.
Hello everyone and welcome to a Basic Podcast. My name is Kingsley Martin. How does that sound? Do I sound like one of those old school TV news reporters? Let's turn to the news. I kind of sound like Ted Baxter from the Mary Tyler Moore Show. Hey, Mary. Come on, Mary. Hey, big guy. You know what I want? Do I have something between my teeth? Hello, everyone, and welcome to a Basic Podcast. This is a preview episode. Isn't that exciting? You're already getting behind-the-scenes stuff before the big premiere. So exciting. I hope you're having as much fun with this as I am. I am currently wearing a blue sequins dress, so I am all ready for this big party. On Thursday, July 2nd, you will hear the premiere episode where there will be, Klieg lights and Sardi's and all the hoopla. The press will be there. Everybody who knows about this podcast will be there, which will be maybe you and me and that man in the corner who seems to be taking a pee. So I want to spend this time with you in this preview, giving you an idea about what the podcast is going to be about, what our goals are, how we plan to go about accomplishing those goals, how you can play a role in doing that, which I'm assuming if you're still listening to this, you're interested in the topic and you want to know more about what we're doing here. So how you can play the role and how we're going to make the best use of the time you spend listening to this program once or twice a week, every week, ongoing. So let's get right into it as a value of your time. Let's talk about the title, a basic podcast. So the whole point of the title is basic. The word means blind and sight impaired community. I don't want it to mislead you because the word community is not meant to identify just the people who are dealing with sight loss or are blind. It's meant to include the word everyone by the word community. So people who are not only living with that, but who are impacted by that. Family, friends, colleagues, employers, business owners who provide goods and services. Everyone, virtually everyone on the planet is impacted by sight complications one way or another. Now, there might be 1, 2, 3% of people or 0.5% of people who have no interaction with people who have any kind of a sight complication whatsoever at all in their life, year after year after year. And if that's the case, they're probably not listening to this. And I'm okay with that. Because if I was trying to talk to them, I would be talking to myself. And that's how I end up taking more medication. Right? What'd you say? Right. Okay. So myself said right. So this is for everyone, like I said, who has a sight complication, who is totally blind, or who is impacted by that. A parent, a teacher, the manager at Walmart, whoever it is. If you're impacted by it, you can benefit from the podcast. Let's talk about the definition of the word blindness. So, according to Oxford Dictionary, blindness is defined as a lack of vision due to injury or disease. That's really a blanket statement. And unfortunately exists all over the world. I know for a fact here in the United States it exists because people who have the qualification of 2200 vision with corrective lenses or glasses, if it's any lower than 2200 with corrective lenses or glasses, you're categorized as legally blind. Does that mean you're blind? No, it doesn't mean you're blind, but there's a lot of stereotypes around blindness. And I can tell you already that if people get this generic mindset about, this is blind, they're going to start to assume this is blind. And it's just natural. They don't know anything about it. It's new to them. It's kind of like, if I were to hand you a manual and you are not a rocket science and said, okay, here's the manual for using the rocket. You go, I have no idea how this works. You would put it down after maybe reading one line and not understanding what that meant. And you would be like, I'm out. I don't even know how to engage with this. So that is one aspect of the definition. It's very blanket, like I said. The second definition, according to Oxford, is a person who lacks awareness, understanding, or judgment. And it says semicolon ignorance. So I don't really like the word ignorance because I think that defines an inability in a way, or a lack of mental capacity to learn. And I don't think that's accurate. I think it's just breaking down those walls and helping people understand that people who have sight complications or are completely blind, that they are, just as valuable, and they are not a weight on the community. They can be active players in it. People just don't know how to help them to be that, or to provide access or accommodation that would allow that to occur. So the whole point of me telling you this definition is that this definition includes everyone. See how it includes the people who have quote unquote blindness and the people who don't understand it. So we aim to resolve the difference between those classifications. And hopefully that is what we will do with this podcast. Our mission statement here at A Basic Podcast is A Basic Podcast, blind and sight impaired community podcast, offers insight, edutainment, and access to those living with or impacted by blindness in all its forms around the world. Once again, all encompassing, we're all in this together, right? So let me explain the three aspects of the goals we have there. The insight has several sort of parts to it. The first and the second have to do with hearing the stories of people who are going through life with sight impairments or blindness. So there'll be two different types of stories you'll hear. And hopefully that will provide comfort and inspiration. The first is the struggle story. So we're going to have a series of episodes where we'll talk to people who are going through the challenge of living life as a blind person, whether it be that they are a young person in a small town or village somewhere who is trying to find ways to create a more accessible world and learn ways to communicate in writing or whatever it may be, and to live a productive life growing up in a small town or village where resources are not readily available, just like right there. You could have the internet, but as far as the accessible signs or whatever on your menus at your restaurant or wherever may not exist there. So hearing those stories can give you awareness that you're not alone if you're in a similar situation, right? Thus, providing a comfort that you are not alone in this. Your unique journey may have similarities to someone else. And by identifying with them, it can make you feel less alone. And that's hopefully the goal. Then the second part is the success that could come for people who push through the challenges of sight issues and blindness and ultimately succeed. I can name 4 people in the entertainment industry right off the top of my head who became successful performers and producers and such within entertainment. Ray Charles, Georgia, Georgia, whole night through. Stevie Wonder, I just called to say I love you. I love you too, Stevie. Jeff Healey, Ronnie Millsap. These guys have become very successful musicians, and that's just entertainment. Steve Wynn, the owner of one of the largest casinos that was in Vegas, was legally blind. Now, he's got other issues going on that have nothing to do with his blindness at this point, but we don't want to diverge into that path. But he's successful. There are doctors who are doing research on numerous different subjects that are blind. Blind teachers, blind app designers, blind engineers. They exist across the board. So if you hear those success stories, maybe you can go, well, originally I wanted to do this, and then I thought it wasn't possible because of my sight issue. And now you might go, maybe it's not impossible. And maybe it will inspire you to push forward and look for those ways to accommodate your world and to make your world more accessible so that you can pursue those dreams you have that you didn't even know it was possible for you to have, but it is. The third part of this, going back to the idea of the community, is giving people who are impacted by knowing someone with a sight impairment or blindness, giving them a chance to hear these stories can also inspire them to go, I heard that story about this young man who was in a small town and he didn't have ready access to, a blind or a menu that was accessible for him. So maybe I like the idea that this kid can go to a restaurant and he can read his own menu and he doesn't have to worry about it. So I'm going to go out and I'm going to invest in buying Braille, learning Braille, or having Braille translations of menus made for this restaurant. So this young man can go in, he can read the menu, and he can be as independent as he wants to be and read that menu and select his own meal, and doesn't have to have someone else do it. That's one idea. Someone who could go and maybe relabel the shelves on the grocery store if they're a manager of a grocery store and say, you know what, I'm going to make this more accessible so these people can know. Here's a little card. It's got Braille on it. It says this is Hormel chili with no beans, and it's $2.99. They can do it with either Braille. They might do it with an audio signal, whatever it may be. But by creating that, if they hear these stories, they might be inspired to go, let me see if I can help create the solutions. And I'm going to tell you, the people who help create solutions are the smartest people there are. And the reason is because it's easy to say, I don't want to be a part of, I don't want to get involved. I don't know how to do it. I don't know what to do. But when you step away from something, it's like any problem. It doesn't get solved. And all it does is continue to be something that you're going to interact with and constantly have to go, okay, well, I got to make exceptions for this or whatever else. But if you try and help make the world more accessible for people, what you do is create more independence, and thus by not having to worry about every time you turn around someone going, hey, I need help now, because if you've created more accessibility, they can do it independently, and they become just like another customer, soaring through your aisles, reading what it says on the little tag you put out for however they're supposed to identify and go, hey, I need one of those. And it's not just them, getting help and finding what they need. They can explore. And when you explore, I don't know about anybody else, but when I explore a store, I end up buying stuff I never thought I wanted to have. I'm still trying to figure out why I have 12 rubber duckies in there. It's just because I don't want the first one to be lonely. Anyway, so that is the idea of the insight. The edutainment aspect of it is, and Becky, my co-host, Becky Nolendorf, she loves the word edutainment, and with good reason. The whole idea is we want to make learning as fun as possible. We don't want to make it overwhelming. We're going to do a series of episodes on certain topics to help people learn things, but we may say these are basic training. This is more intermediate. This is more intense. And then maybe this is, high knowledge training of someone who's really developed their skills. And we'll give you a skill set level that you can work with. But we can teach and provide a source of information and edutainment by showing you things like how to learn Braille with a 6-egg crate. So egg crate Braille or muffin pan Braille with tennis balls. These are ways with DIY stuff at your home, you can actually still continue to develop skills that you may not have access to depending on the resources in your town, village, city, whatever it may be in the world. So you could learn things. So we want to make sure that education or edutainment is a fun part of what we do. And there's lots of ideas. We could talk about how to use software like Soundscape, which will help you create beacons of stores you go to so that when you visit them again, a beacon will go off, say, doot, 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 doot. The pub is, 5 feet away or whatever it is. So you can have that. There's so many different things we can do that don't cost virtually anything that can help you learn and find ways of making your world more accessible. So that's the edutainment part of it. And just learning unique little ways. I want to add this on. Little unique ways that maybe you've come up with to create a more accessible world for yourself that you've never seen in public. You never know how that might help somebody. Then, thirdly, it just sounds like an interesting word, thirdly. So thirdly, we're going to talk about access. And that comes down to the different groups that are out there. There are so many different groups. It would blow your mind that provide information and support and connection for people who are sight impaired and blind. There are big organizations that sort of encompass all of it, like the American Council of the Blind, which, by the way, their annual convention begins this Friday, July 3rd, and runs through Friday, July 10th. It's all virtual, meaning you don't have to get into a car. You don't have to get onto an airplane. Not that you can right now, but you don't have to do any of it. You can sit at home in your boxers eating Oreos and drinking Dr. Pepper, and you're going to be fine, and you can get some great value from it. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. But definitely catch that interview on Thursday, July 2nd with Janet Dickelman, the convention coordinator for the American Council of the Blind. And this is her, 9th year or something, I think she said, that she's been organizing the event and under a unique circumstance this year. So thirdly, as I was saying, is the access. So there's all these different groups, and then there's like little small groups that you can find that are niche groups. So American Council of the Blind, National Federation for the Blind, National Foundation for the Blind. These are sort of all-encompassing groups. They focus everybody and bring everybody together as one big, group. But then there are groups that are blind veterans in both the United States and UK that I've seen. There is associations for people with diabetes, and diabetes causes a lot of sight issues for people. It can develop into glaucoma, which can cause tremendous sight loss based on pressure that builds up in the eyes. You've got an institute that works with people with albinism and hypopigmentation, which is like a darkening of the skin. It's the opposite from albinism, the light skin. You've got blind pride. Let's say you have a best friend, right? And your best friend said, I appreciate you, but, you don't know what it's like to be gay. You don't know what it's like to be gay and blind. I don't know what to do. So if you're aware of this podcast and keeping your eyes open, you will find that there is a blind pride group, and you could say, wow, this would be great for my friend. And you go and you say, hey, I found this information for this group for people that it sounds like they understand the unique situation you're in. And, maybe they can be a good connection for you. And you could lead that person to connect with that group, and then they could become a pioneer in their own way in helping others to find groups like that, or expanding groups like that, or whatever it is. And then you can still connect with the big groups and get to connect with everyone. So there's all these groups out there, and the access part is us introducing you to those groups, to those training centers that you can access online or in person, to events where you can connect with people and create community. And this is not, once again, just for people who are sight impaired or blind. It's for everyone. We all contribute to the solutions that make the world more accessible, more even-handed. No one's asking for a handout. They're asking for the hand to balance on that same level as you. And yes, accessibility is necessary, but once it's established, it can evolve more and more. And it doesn't have to be something where you feel weighted on. If you're excited, that you always have to be present. You could get a sense of security and knowing that you've helped people to go to the next level that they may not have known they could ever find a way to get there. So I hope that gives you an idea of our goals. Thank you for taking the time here with me to listen to this. I hope it's providing some value to you and helping you know that you are significant in this in numerous ways. And don't let anyone, if you are a sight impaired or blind person, if you're new to the experience, it was something that just happened so suddenly, or if you're a child and you're listening to this and you're going, I don't know what I'm going to be when I grow up because all my friends want to be this and that. I don't know what I'm going to do. Well, let me tell you something. From the bottom of my soul, you can do anything you want to. The accessibility and the accommodations that exist now are just what exists now. The sky is not even the limit. Not anymore. We're going to space, baby. You can be whatever you want. You may have to create that accessibility for people. But wouldn't it be amazing to know that your efforts now will change and inspire generations of people that come after you? You must believe in yourself above all else. You must. Because if you don't believe in you, who else is going to? People can support you if you believe in yourself. But if you don't believe, if you don't know that you can do it, that you can succeed, that you can overcome the challenge of your sight complication, then how are they supposed to know it? They can't live your life for you. Only you can. You must never give up, especially on yourself. I want to tell you how we're going to present information to you on this series. There are a lot of programs out there for blind and sight impaired people. There's a lot of them out there. There's a lot of different podcasts, and they're all great, and they all provide value in their own way. We're going to provide value in the way we believe is the most effective and focused. So what we're going to do are 8 to 10 week series on a specific topic. So for example, this first 10 weeks is going to be spotlight on community groups. So you're going to learn about all these different groups, from the all-encompassing groups to the niche groups, and how they help people with sight impairments and blindness. Then in another series after that, we might do 8 to 10 weeks where we do spotlight on stories of struggle, where we talk about those people who are going through the challenges based on their geographic circumstances or just what has just been thrust upon them because of a sight injury or whatever it may be. So you hear the stories of struggle. Then we'll do a 8 to 10 episode maybe on spotlight on accessible technology related to ordering food. Who knows what it will be? There's just so many different ranges in here of what we can do in spotlight in different categories. The idea being that, let's say you're someone who's like, I wish I knew about the different groups that are out there. Well, now you could go to a podcast, some of the great podcasts out there that are for the blind and sight impaired, and you got to go to their feed and you can go, okay, so your feed has an episode about this, an episode about that, an episode about this, an episode about that, an episode of this, an episode of that, but there's no, like, I have to dance through the menu to find these things that might fit the mood I'm in right now or the information I'm trying to consume. So we're going to do these spotlight series so that you can go, okay, this 10 weeks is all about spotlight on community groups. Hey, this is great. This is the one I want to listen to. And then you'll hear within the title, spotlight on community groups for the basic crowd. And it says it's for blind pride. And you go, oh, sounds like that's what I'm looking for. You go listen to that episode. Then you go, I'd really like to get something on the voiceover features on iPhone. So then you go, I really want to learn some of the basics of iPhone voiceover use. So you go back and you look through the list and you find spotlight on iPhone voiceover techniques. And you can scroll down and you can find the focused one, or you could just play those 10 episodes in a row or whatever it is and learn from that. So that's the whole idea. We want to create the content in series packs that then we can release as a series pack of information, and you can easily go through and find a certain series of episodes that focuses on a particular category, and then you can listen to all of them or then find that little gem you're looking for in it. So that's how we're going to present the series episodes. So before we call it a day, let's talk a little bit about the American Council of the Blind, which has been around for a very, very long time. They were originally established in 1961, but some of their chapters date back to the 1880s. I know one of them is in California, and they've been around for a very long time. They have over 70 affiliates and chapters throughout the United States. They have played key roles in a number of bills that have come before the legislative branch and been passed here in the United States, for example. They've been involved with the Civil Rights Act of the 60s, the Rehabilitation Act of the 70s, the ADA Act, which I believe was it 90, 80, 90? They were involved in the 21st Century CAVAA Act, which was the Communications and Video Accessibility Act, which made things like phones, computers, television screens, audio description more readily available on technology for people who are sight impaired and blind. So they've played a huge role in that. They've played a role in trying to create more accessibility in public places, like with banks. They've been a key player in working with banks to create automated or audio-led ATMs so that you no longer have to, if you go to the right banks, and a lot of the key players are involved with this now, Chase, Wells Fargo, Bank of America. There's a couple of others that I can't think of at the moment, but I know that are participants. And you can actually go and now handle your business privately instead of having to have a friend go and fill out the deposit slip for you or whatever else. You could go to these ATMs, plug in your headset, and the device itself, the AI technology, will guide you through conducting your business, and no one has to see your balance. No one has to see the kind of money you've got. Whatever it may be, you've got that privacy to it. So that's another part of what they've been active members in making happen. They work with a lot of other organizations, not just themselves. Representatives from the ACB will sit on the boards of things like National Industries and other major companies and organizations to create a more accessible environment for people with sight impairments and blindness. I know they've also been working on and off for some time trying to collaborate with the Treasury. This is on their website as well, trying to create taxable currency. Now, obviously, nickels and dimes and quarters are covered. They're fairly easy to figure out. But when it comes to paper money, ones, fives, tens, 20s, 50s, hundreds, I will take any of them you want to send me, by the way. That's just because I like to help. So if you've got them, they're just wadded up in your pocket and they're just a pain, you just put them in an envelope and send them on over. But they've been working with the Treasury to try and create taxable currency so that you have that extra level of accessibility and accommodation that doesn't affect anyone else, but all it does is make it to where you can go and do your business and you don't have to rely on anyone to do it. You have that freedom of doing whatever. I can't tell you how much going back to the ATM, how much I fell in love with an audio described AI-led ATM. I loved it because before I couldn't read, like a bank that I was doing business with called Wood Forest. They don't have audio described ATMs. And as a result of it, I would always have to have assistance to use their ATM. When I moved over to a bank that is now actively involved in using audio describe, I didn't need anybody's help. I had a freedom for going to get my business done when I wanted and not having to try and find someone to read it and compromise the security of my own account. The other thing is there are, in banks now, you can get a Braille credit card. So you can have it with your number written on it in Braille. So you can read it, and you don't have to go and ask anybody else to read your card to you. You're covered. You have that independence, you have that access, and they don't. And with all the fraud that occurs with people's credit cards nowadays, that is fantastic to have to create more privacy from either you being with someone who might steal it, not that that happens a lot per se, I'm assuming with people who you really know, they don't betray you like that, but also from someone who might be passing by and might hear the conversation just enough to get your credit card number. So that's a great feature. And ACB is involved in all this. All of this. They're super involved in this, and this is very helpful to everyone because of it. So I want you to hear from Janet Dickelman on Thursday, July 2nd. Please come back and listen to that episode. I think you'll find a lot of value. Now, to register for the American Council of the Blind's annual convention, which will be, again, all virtual this year, you can first send them an email at acbconvention- which is the button just to the right of the 0 on the top line of the keyboard, subscribe at acblists.org. So I'm going to spell it out for you. Hopefully this works well for you. ACB, American Council Blind Convention, CONVENTION hyphen, once again, it's that button just to the right of the 0 on most keyboards, subscribe, SUBSCRIBE, at, which is the shift and the number 2 together, ACB, American Council Blind Lists, LISTS.org. Now, beginning on Thursday, July 2nd, at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, that is New York time, you can begin to register. You can register on July 2nd from 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Then, after that, you can register on Friday, July 3rd through Thursday, July 9th from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So to register, call the ACB convention registration at 612-332-3242. Again, that number again is 612-332-3242. There is a $25 registration fee if you want to participate in the Zoom meetings. That is very cost effective when you consider you are eliminating all of the costs related to travel. So it's a very nominal fee for a lot of value, and it helps out the organization to continue to do what they do, which is to make all these advancements and to advocate for the blind and sight-impaired community. If you do not have the financial resources at this time to contribute that $25, that's fine. What matters to them the most at ACB is that you attend and get the value. And there are other ways of getting the value. You can attend via acbradio.org, like we've talked about. So go and check that out. Definitely get involved with that, and I think you will really enjoy it. I'm going to part ways with you for now. It's been a pleasure taking this time with you. I hope you've gotten some value from it, and I hope you've enjoyed some of my random singing and my really bad impressions. I'll leave you with one more. I just want to tell you that I'm very impressed with every single person out there listening. You listen to this man drone on for 45 or whatever minutes it was. It took some class. It took some character. It took probably a whole lot of liquor. Hoo-ah. Thank you for joining me here on the program. I look forward to seeing you next time with my co-host, Mrs. Becky Nolendorfs, and the ACB Convention Coordinator, Janet Dickelman. Until then, remember, there are no I's in this team.
A Basic Podcast is an Achieve Studios production. Special thanks to all of you for listening and your participation. If you're enjoying the podcast, you can show your support in a number of ways. First, you can subscribe to the podcast on the platform you're listening to the program, so you never miss a new episode. Then take a minute to like and share our Facebook page at www.facebook.com/basicpod. And while you're on the Facebook page, join the Listeners Club, where you can interact with us and other listeners about the various topics we discuss on the show. If you have an idea for the podcast or some constructive feedback, please give us a call at area code 505-585-0500. You can also reach us by email at basicpod@gmail.com. Who knows? We just may feature your comment or question on an upcoming episode of Phone In Fridays. Stay engaged and stay in touch. That's a wrap for today. Until next time,
I'm Kingsley Martin.
And I'm Becky Nollendorf, and this is A Basic Podcast.